need to do more to educate our young people to say violence is not a negotiation tactic. There are certain groups of young people, certain communities where the level of violence is so extreme you wouldn't believe it. And remember, for every one knife incident you see, that knife has probably been used to terrorise 20 to 30 other people.
The family of a 15-year-old girl who was stabbed to death have said that their lives have fallen apart. Eliyanna Andam was killed in Croydon in South London yesterday on her way to school. A 17-year-old boy is still in custody. Lord Bailey, formerly Sean Bailey, member of the London Assembly and Police and Crime Committee, I should make that clear, member of the London Assembly Police and Crime Committee, and once a candidate for London Mayor as well, Sean. Hello, good afternoon to you.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon.
Can we first of all just acknowledge what a truly tragic set of circumstances this is?
This really is a truly tragic set of circumstances, and our hearts and prayers can only go out to the family and friends involved. This incident is as much about mental health as it is about knife crime. It's very different to the sort of knife crime incident we generally talk about, people trying to rob people, gang activity, etc., etc. This is a very different and unique thing, and again, very tragic for all involved.
Right. Well, I'll take on board what you said, although I'm not sure we actually know all that much about the detail of what's gone on in Croydon. Knife crime in London did go up by 16% in just 1 year to the end of March. Why do you think that is?
There's a number of things. Of course, it'd be easy to just blame the Mayor, Sadiq Khan. He is a police and crime commissioner for London, and there is some elements of truth in that. But I think there's some wider issues we need to look at. Firstly, is the messages we are sending about diversion versus enforcement. I think the Mayor has been pretty good on suggesting that young people should be diverted and providing some funds for that. Of course, he could have done more, but he has had a focus on that. But I think sometimes we do need to also suggest that there is a punishment here. Some of that lies with the Mayor, but some goes beyond that as well, because there's a lot of young people who are currently in the court system who, for knife offences or various types, who simply haven't been seen yet. And that sends a message on the street that you will get away with these things. And I don't think that's helpful at all.
So backlogs in the court system. What else is perpetuating the notion that to be safe on the streets of London, you need a knife?
There's three things I'd say. I think since 2016, we've had 2 record years for knife crime. And I think that's boiled down to the Mayor of London was very anti-stop and search. Now, stop and search is not the be-all and end-all of police tactics, but it's a very important one. And he forced those figures down and knife crime went up. And I think that needs to be looked at. It isn't about stopping stop and search. It's about doing it better, I believe. The second piece is, if you look on the Metropolitan website and the tweets they put out, they very regularly tweet, knife finds, very big, horrible-looking knives. The children refer to them as zombie knives. And many campaigners, including the London Assembly and some young people, have asked them to stop doing that, because what that has done is fueled an arms race on the streets. Young people are seeing these knives and thinking, well, if they have knives of that size, I need a knife of that size. And of course, the last piece is as well, we need to do more to educate our young people to say violence is not a negotiation tactic. There are certain groups of young people, certain communities where the level of violence is so extreme you wouldn't believe it. And remember, for every one knife incident you see, that knife has probably been used to terrorise 20 to 30 other people.
Where are young people buying these so-called zombie knives, Lord Bailey? Where do you... I mean, we don't want advice, obviously, on where you get them from, but isn't it preposterous that they are available at all? Because they have no practical use at all, presumably, beyond these hideous acts we're discussing now.
You're completely right. And most decent retailers wouldn't sell a knife like this to a young person. But of course, you have the internet, you have the dark web, and you just have the street trade in knives. Young people giving them to each other, selling them to each other, which just makes it, in some cases, quite hard. The police and the law have done an awful lot, particularly government, around making the sale of these knives illegal. I don't think many of them come from a legal source. But that's why we need a plan from the Mayor, which has been sorely lacking. How are we going to get these weapons off the streets of London? There are significant amounts of weapons on the street of London, and that needs to be one of the focus of activity if we're ever going to reduce these figures.
It would be some tiny amount of comfort to Eliyanna's family if this were a turning point, if something really changed as a result of her tragic death? Do you think it will?
Look, you're completely right that we don't know the details, and I excuse me for making an assumption just because of the people involved. When you talk about mental health for young people, I think as a society, we're beginning to focus in on it. I'm not sure we've come to the right conclusions yet because we often talk about mental health. And actually, for young people, it's mental well being and a mental resilience so that they can navigate the vagaries of modern life. You only have to look at the social media that they all follow just to see how utterly horrible it is. All the horrible thoughts, all the bullying that our young people are regularly exposed to, of course, will have an effect on their mental health. So we need to do something about that. When you talk about crime, will this incident make a change? Unfortunately, I don't think so, because there's some really entrenched drivers of this. For instance, I haven't mentioned poverty, but there is that is a definite element, and of course, drugs. Drugs are the single biggest driver of crime in general and violence in particular on the streets of London and any of our metropolitan cities across the country.